Tonight on Nightline, Scientology under attack. A wave of websites, videos, and protests turns a critical eye on the celebrity-studded church. Now this niece of Scientology's worldwide leader, raised in the church, tells Nightline why she left and why she's joined the protests. Growing Up Scientologist, a Nightline special report starting now.
From the global resources of ABC News, with Terry Moran in Washington, Martin Bashir and Cynthia McFadden in New York City. This is Nightline, April 24, 2008.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Terry Moran. Tonight, Scientology under attack. The Church of Scientology now claims membership in the millions, and it's opening lavish new facilities around the globe. Their expansion is helped, no doubt, by the very high profile of some of the church's members, like Tom Cruise and Kirstie Alley. But it comes in the face of a mounting wave of criticism in online videos and in protests across the country. The woman you're about to meet is part of that wave, yet her criticisms of the church are more surprising, perhaps, given her family tree. Not only was she raised in the church, she's a niece of the church's current leader. This is her story of her life in the Church of Scientology. Lisa Fletcher reports.
He's one of the biggest box office draws in history. The face of an impossible missions force agent, fearless Top Gun pilot,
coming in, Ice. I'm coming in.
and relentless lawyer.
I want the truth!
But in recent years, Tom Cruise has also become the face of Scientology, with public and unbridled passion for the church.
I think it's a privilege to call yourself a Scientologist.
A recent video made for a Scientology event that was leaked online piqued people's interest in a belief system that has long been surrounded by controversy.
We are the authorities on getting people off drugs. We are the authorities on the mind.
He's vocal about the benefits of Scientology and a supporter and close personal friend of its worldwide leader, David Miscavige. Miscavige took over the reins of power when science fiction author and founder L. Ron Hubbard died in 1986.
Scientology is about you, yourself, and what you do.
Miscavige says Scientology can offer its followers greater ability in all areas of life, rid people of negativity, and make them, quote, clear.
You see, all past attempts have been to bring man up to somebody's standard of what's normal. What we're trying to do in Scientology is take somebody from this higher level and move them up to greater ability.
According to the church, Scientology is in the midst of tremendous growth.
Being a Scientologist is basically being someone who helps.
They claim millions of members in more than 100 countries.
I am a Scientologist.
I am a Scientologist.
I'm a Scientologist.
I'm a Scientologist.
Though critics say those numbers are vastly overstated. Recently, the church finds itself under increasing attack.
Anonymous has therefore decided that your organization should be destroyed.
In January, a group of online activists known as Anonymous posted this threatening video on the internet.
We do not forgive. We do not forget. Expect us.
And have since staged a number of anti-Scientology protests across the country. The church has shot back with a video of its own.
While claiming they are peaceful, in less than 3 weeks, anonymous members made or encouraged 22 bomb threats and 8 death threats against members and officials of the Church of Scientology.
New websites critical of Scientology are popping up all over the internet. And just last week, an interview with actor and former Scientology member Jason Begay was posted on YouTube.
Scientology is destructive and a ripoff.
Ex-ScientologyKids.com was created by 3 young women who used to be members of the church.
I was born in New Hampshire, and my parents joined the church when I was 2.
One of the women stands out from the crowd of online critics. That's because on the family tree of Scientology, she's rooted in deep. She is a niece of leader David Miscavige.
When I was younger, he would send me presents on my birthday. He was, very gregarious, very nice.
Jenna Miscavige Hill was raised in the church. Both her parents were high-ranking members of what's called the Sea Organization, or Sea Org. It is Scientology's version of the clergy, the group of people who essentially run the church.
What we're told is that they have to work so hard because they're helping other people. Your family isn't the most important thing.
From the age of 6 to 12, Jenna lived here at a Scientology-owned property in California that was known as The Ranch.
We lived in dormitories, and I would only see my parents once a week.
According to Jenna, life as a child was not very childlike.
It was like 6:30, wake up, you'd put on your uniform, you'd clean your room. Somebody would stand in front, and they would go to each line, and they'd be like, Unit A, report. If you were late, you would get a chit, which would go to your ethics file, which they had one for everyone. One time, a kid got a bucket of ice water dumped on top of his head when he was late, even though it was 6:30 in the morning.
She says 7 days a week, children as young as 6 had long days on the ranch. In addition to reading, writing, and arithmetic classes and studying Scientology, she says there were physical chores.
These projects range from rock hauling, taking rocks out of the creek, picking them up, hauling them up the hill, putting them in a pile, and these were usually to make rock walls.
As a little girl, she says she remembers weeding for hours.
And we would do this no matter how hot or how cold it was outside.
Somebody might say, you know, if you go to a strict school, a military school, there are going to be certain things that are required of you that may not be required of a kid in public school.
Except I didn't exactly sign up for a military school. I don't think my parents were trying to sign me up for a military school.
In an official response to a Radar magazine article that included Jenna's story, the church wrote, "Children were never forced to engage in manual labor. Claims to the contrary are categorically denied." About the ranch, which was closed in 1999, they said the facilities were nothing short of spectacular.
There's nothing wrong with your kid working their chores, learning the ways of the world. Does it have to be rock hauling when you're a girl who's 6 years old?
Jenna says when she was 7, she was asked to sign a billion-year contract to prove her devotion to the church.
It means that, like in Scientology, they believe that you live lifetime after lifetime.
So you've contractually committed yourself for every lifetime you have
Right.
to Scientology.
Mm-hmm.
After 6 years at the ranch, at age 12, Jenna left California for a visit to the church's so-called Mecca in Clearwater, Florida. She says church elders asked her to remain there and become a full-fledged member of the Sea Org, while her parents remained in California.
I wanted to go back and see them, and I was even about to get on a plane, and I just got pulled into a room and screamed at, telling me that, you know, I'm here to be a Sea Org member.
At 12 years old, Jenna says life at Clearwater consisted of long days studying academics and Scientology and hours of administrative tasks and chores. Sometimes, Jenna says, they worked through the night.
You don't sign up for the nights where you stay up all night, sleep 2 hours, stay up all night, the next night, sleep 2 hours. I saw my mom probably a half an hour one time from when I was 12 till I was 16. I saw my dad maybe 3 times for a half an hour each time from 12 till I was 16.
In its written statement to Radar magazine concerning Jenna's account, the church said it, quote, does not comment on how parents choose to educate and raise their children. Jenna's parents declined our request for an interview. Hundreds of miles away and unknown at the time to Jenna, another young woman was working in the Sea Org.
When I was 14, I was recruited to join the Sea Organization. They made it sound so wonderful.
Like Jenna, Astra Woodcraft was the daughter of Scientologists, and as a child went to Scientology schools. At age 15, she married a fellow Sea Org member. Her workday consisted of studying, mostly L. Ron Hubbard's teachings, and clerical duties.
I worked, 15 hours a day. We worked 7 days a week. I maybe had 2 or 3 days off a year.
Astra says disobedience wasn't tolerated in the Sea Org. She says once she refused an order from a higher-ranking Sea Org member.
And he held me up against a wall, screaming in my face.
They'll paint this extremely rosy picture, and it sort of sucks you in.
Astra's father, Lawrence Woodcraft, says the family joined the Sea Org because of his wife's passion for Scientology. He says they were often assigned to work projects that took them away from their 2 daughters.
She would happily go for a year or 2 without seeing them. I'm sure she missed them, but her total priority was Scientology. And when I'd spoken to her about it, she said, well, if I don't further the aims of Scientology, the kids don't have a future anyway. So, it was that level of fanaticism, I think, that drove her.
Astra's mother did not return Nightline's calls. Lawrence says he grew disillusioned soon after joining the Sea Org. He says he wanted out, but he says taking his children would not be easy.
Back now to Lisa Fletcher's report on 2 women who left Scientology, including a niece of the church's worldwide leader.
Jenna Miscavige Hill, a niece of David Miscavige, Scientology's leader, and Astra Woodcraft, grew up in the church. But Astra's father, Lawrence, wanted out. He says he felt that wasn't an option.
You'll be declared a suppressive person and then you'll never speak to your family again.
Suppressive person, or SP, is church lingo for someone who is anti-Scientology, or in their terms, seeks to suppress any betterment activity or group. Tom Cruise referenced SPs in that leaked Scientology video.
So, like, have you met an SP? I looked at him, you know, and I thought, oh, what a beautiful thing, because maybe one day it'll be like that. You know what I'm saying? Maybe one day it will be that. Wow, SPs, like, they'll just read about those in the history books, you know?
If you leave without permission, they declare you a suppressive person and they make your family and all your friends, anyone in Scientology who knows you, they make them disconnect from you.
Despite the risk of being labeled an SP, Lawrence says he couldn't take it anymore. He left the church. He and his wife divorced.
I was told I couldn't see my father anymore because he wasn't in the Sea Org.
She wasn't ever supposed to see me, but she would sneak out and come and see me on Friday morning.
We had a few hours we were given to do our laundry, and I used to sneak off to see him.
There's a little bit of a problem in getting people to talk critically about the Church of Scientology because, quite frankly, they're scared.
Oh, no.
Well, I'm telling you.
In 1992, Nightline's Ted Koppel did the one and only network television interview with Jenna's uncle, David Miscavige, where he challenged him about the church's policies.
They, who do not belong to any organization, are quite frankly afraid to come out and speak.
Well, I'm sorry, that story doesn't hold water, because I'll tell you, from my perspective, the person getting harassed is myself and the church.
I must have been like 8 years old. We were all told to watch it. We like never watched TV. So we were like, oh, yay, watch TV.
What is it you can do for me?
Well, number one, I would never try to talk you into that Scientology is for you.
I remember, my parents saying, yeah, he did so good in that interview. When Ted Koppel said negative things about the church, he discredited them in his mind.
But Jenna says the good relationship she had enjoyed with her uncle would turn sour. She says one day when she was 14,
I got in trouble for chit-chatting when I was supposed to be studying, and I wanted to call my parents. They hung up the phone, and I was like, no, I want to call my parents. I tried to run to the other payphone to call them, and they were like, no, people were physically stopping me. Basically, I got held down by like 3 people. I had punched one of them because they were doing that.
Shortly thereafter, she says she was confronted by her uncle.
What you did is unacceptable. You're not going to get any more special treatment. I was like, if special treatment means being held down and not being allowed to talk to your family, then I am happy to be rid of it.
Celebrity Center International is a Scientology church located in Hollywood, California. It is aptly named, as many Hollywood celebrities are members of the church. Tom Cruise and Katie Holmes, John Travolta, and Kirstie Alley.
I had one auditing session in Scientology, and I never did drugs again or had the urge to do drugs again.
Auditing is a fundamental and common practice in Scientology. It's a kind of counseling session in which a person is asked a series of questions, negative feelings and thoughts are identified, and hopefully purged through the use of what's called an E-meter.
You just basically hold 2 cans, and I think they measure electrical resistance. They have a whole list of prepared questions. Are you withholding anything? Do you have an upset over anything? In other words, they want to find out what's going on in your life.
Once a week, we would get a meter check where they just have you sit there and they observe your needle, and if it's like dirty, then that means that you're hiding something.
But Jenna says the E-meter and auditing could also be used to interrogate.
Do you have intentions to leave and never come back? Do you talk about bad things about the church to your parents?
You could be randomly interrogated at any time?
Yeah.
That's normal?
Yeah, usually it's because they're suspicious of you.
In 2000, Jenna's parents, David Miscavige's brother and sister-in-law, were in the process of leaving the church. Jenna says around this time, her E-meter sessions suddenly intensified.
One day I just got plucked out of my usual activities and by a very high representative in the church. And I was interrogated on the E-meter, and I was put into like a grubby uniform, and I was made to clean the back stairwell or clean and re-stain the stalls in the bathroom, and then I would go back and get more interrogation.
Jenna says there were times when she was physically restrained during auditing sessions.
There's been many times when I've tried to leave the room and they've physically held me in there, like physically to a point where I was yelling and screaming.
But according to this Scientology report from May 2006, provided to us by Jenna, the church says she was the violent one. The report states she had a long history of verbally and physically accosting other staff members, neglecting duties, damaging church property, mayhem, mutiny, and turbulation. Jenna doesn't deny the incidents, but says the church restrictions pushed her to the breaking point. When we come back, Jenna and Astra deciding to leave the Church of Scientology.
Nightline continues from Washington with Terry Moran.
And back now to Lisa Fletcher's report on two women who grew up in the Church of Scientology, but eventually left the fold.
I'd been very unhappy the whole time I was there, but this was something I never told anyone, my husband, my friends.
Astra Woodcraft was becoming disillusioned with the church.
They came out with a new rule. They said, that's it, no more kids.
And she was very upset when she was about 16 or 17 and said they suddenly decided to change the rules and that, you know, Sea Org members were no longer allowed to have children.
If you get pregnant when you're in the Sea Org, you either have to leave or you get an abortion. I know people who have gotten like up to 4 abortions.
I remember thinking, well, wait a minute, I never agreed to this. You know, I'm like 17 years old. I haven't made a decision. I'm not going to have children.
2 years after the policy was established, Astra learned she and her husband were expecting a baby.
A very high-level Sea Org member saw me one day and asked me what I was doing, and I said that I was leaving. And he said, why? And I said, I'm pregnant. And he said, oh, is it too late for an abortion? In like such a callous way, I didn't even know what to say in response. We're talking about a culture where they think that what they're doing is so important that everything else isn't important.
In a San Francisco Chronicle article from 2001, church leaders responded that it has no policy on abortion, leaving the choice up to individual couples. Lawrence remembers the relief he felt when his daughter Astra finally decided to leave the church.
I think that gradually started to seep in on her. Wait a minute, there's more to life than Scientology. That's when she just took off, just got the hell out of that rotten organization. Sorry, it makes me upset to think about it. But.
Soon after Astra left, she divorced her husband, and she says she was disconnected from her family that was still in the church. A few years later, Astra's younger sister left too.
I just realized, I was like, this isn't helping me.
Jenna Miscavige Hill, a niece of David Miscavige, Scientology's leader, says it wasn't until years after her parents left the church that she began to realize she wanted to leave as well.
I don't even have a life. I don't get to enjoy things. Who am I really helping?
Jenna says she and her husband Dallas went back and forth about leaving or staying in the church. In 2005, they finally left for good. But first, Jenna says she was told to sign paperwork promising not to talk about her experiences within the church.
And that's a bond, which I didn't sign. I shredded it in front of the lady's face.
Now out of the church, Astra and Jenna and another ex-Sea Org member started their website, ex-Scientologykids.com.
It's just a way for people to share stories and to maybe reconnect with people who they knew before.
Reconnection was the theme of the latest anti-Scientology protest staged by the group Anonymous.
I'm not a member of Anonymous, but you know, they are rallying peaceful protests.
My mom, my grandma, my brother, and I haven't heard from them or seen them in 8 years. And today the protest is about disconnection and reconnections.
Now with her 9-year-old daughter by her side, Astra says she and Jenna are trying to move forward.
If they would just let people who wanted to be there, and if someone wanted to leave, they let them leave, and if someone didn't like what was going on, they let them speak their mind, there'd be no story.
I'm not going to be scared. I'm not going to be intimidated. I'm just going to continue living my life the way I want it to be. I'm not going to let them affect me anymore.
For Nightline, this is Lisa Fletcher in Los Angeles.
And once again, Jenna's parents, the brother and sister-in-law of Scientology's leader, declined our request for an interview. Jenna says that she has a good relationship with her parents now that they have all left the church. When we come back, Scientology responds.
ABC News Nightline, brought to you by IBM.
For weeks, Nightline repeatedly asked the Church of Scientology for an on-the-record response to our report. Tonight, we received a statement in which the church says it would not comment on what it called Jenna Hill's, quote, dismissal from her Sea Org position. It goes on to say, in part, the church will not discuss matters surrounding Mrs. Hill. She has used her name to make an otherwise ecclesiastical issue into a family matter and a personal attack on a family matter. The church will not relinquish its dignity to engage in such a debate. The church cannot respond directly to Mrs. Hill's allegations without impugning her character, something the church will not do. Every religion has its detractors. There is no faith that can satisfy everyone's spiritual needs, Scientology included. We wish Mrs. Hill well in her search for spiritual fulfillment. For the full statement and for more on this story, go to the Nightline page at abcnews.com. And that's our report for tonight. I'm Terry Moran for Cynthia McFadden, Martin Bashir, and all of us at ABC News. Good night, America.